I'm a senior hospitality tourism major, and I'm the president of our Hospitality and Tourism Management Club here on campus. And I do want to thank Professor McPhail for just kind of helping us get this panel together. But now I will turn it over to another hospitality student, Don Beam, correct? And he's kind of going to moderate the panel. But at any point, if you guys think of questions or anything, feel free to kind of just raise your hand and jump in. All right, Don?
Okay, so we have 4 panelists today. Mr. Tom Loftus, a Vice President of Communications from Visit Pittsburgh. Could you raise your hand?
Sure.
All right. Dana, pardon me if I say this wrong, Kotwica?
Close enough.
All right, from the Duquesne Club. She's a catering director there. We have Mark Chambers from the Fairmont, Pittsburgh, and Ed Traversi from Point Park. All right, so what I'd like us to do first is for you just introduce yourselves by what you do at your respective position and how long you've been in your field. Mark, would you like to start?
Sure. With microphone? Do I need a microphone? Yes. Okay. My name is Mark Chambers. I'm the chef concierge at Fairmont, Pittsburgh, which is downtown luxury hotel. I have been in the hotel business for about 17 years. I've been in food and beverage and other service in the service industry for over 30.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dana Kotwica. I'm the director of catering from the Duquesne Club downtown. If any of you are not sure what the Duquesne Club is, it's a very nationally highly rated private club. We do events. We have 5 restaurants. We have hotel rooms, 42 hotel rooms. I have been in the hospitality industry since 1990, which I kind of shuddered a little this morning when I thought way back to 1990, but I actually started when I was in college. And as I said, I'm the director of catering, so I handle all of the catered events for the club, both inside and outside of the club.
My name's Tom Loftus. I'm vice president of Visit Pittsburgh. And for those of you who don't know what Visit Pittsburgh is, we're the travel and tourism agency for Pittsburgh. And just to make it even simpler, we sell and promote Pittsburgh. So it's a cool job. I've only been there for 10 months, but my background's public relations, and I've been in five different industries: legal, manufacturing, space flight, and hospitality twice now. I was the director of communications for Interstate Hotels Corporation, and they were third-party hotel management companies. So it's great to be here.
I'm Ed Traversi. Excuse me. First of all, I'll say that I went to school here a long time ago. Graduated actually in the 70s. But I promised somebody I would tell no stories from that time. No, it was great just coming back here today because I was a student activities director. I remember that's what changed my life when I came out here. I started putting on the concerts for the campus back in the 70s when we really weren't having too many shows because we were a small school. And that changed my life. So when I graduated, I got hooked up with a company that you wouldn't know. They're called DeCesar Engler Productions. They were a big concert promoter here in Pittsburgh. I worked with them for 35 years, made me a partner. We owned the Benedum Center downtown, and then we sold our company to Live Nation, which is even a bigger company putting on concerts. And then for the last 8 years, I've been at Point Park University. We started a program called Sports Arts and Entertainment Management, very similar to probably what you're doing, although we have a lot more entertainment. I'm teaching classes in the concert business. We have a classroom at Stage AE. We started a record label. You know, we do things a little different, but it's good to be here.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do is, because you're all from different sections of the industry, I'm going to ask certain people certain questions, and so we will get to everybody. But I'd like to start with both Mark and Dana, as they work in the luxury segment of the industry. And so one of the big things in hospitality, with everybody being young and new professionals, we work with the public, and it's very hard to say no. So when you're working in that environment, how do you handle situations where you're confronted with a bad situation, or you need to step in and say that you can't perform the task? Mark, would you like to start?
Never saying no is something that we are trained to do. So when a request from any hotel guest comes, one of our mottos is never say no without offering an alternative. There's always another way to do something. I find at my desk, people will come to me with a very specific question, but they may not be asking for what they really, really want. And so I try to, through conversation and just eye contact and, you know, just relating to them, figure out what they really, really need and do my best to provide that. Now, I don't know, Don, if you're talking about illegal, immoral, ethical issues, or, I mean, there are things that we don't do. But basically, there's always a way to do something to get the end result that the guest wants or needs.
Okay, thank you.
I would agree with what he says. At the Duquesne Club, it's a private club, so in order to be at the club, most times you need to be a member. You could have an event or be at the club because you have sponsorship through a member, but it kind of adds another element to it when you're working with members. The members pay a very high initiation fee to join, and then they pay a monthly fee every month. So basically, when the member is asking you for something, there really is not an option for no. You may modify what they're asking, but usually you would just find a way to do whatever it is. And usually there's, in our heads, we may want to say no, but there's usually a way to work around whatever they're asking for and just find a way to get it done. So I would say that really no is not really an option. And that's something in the industry that you should probably get used to and be prepared with, because honestly, there are a lot of times, and I'm sure he would agree, that people ask you for things and you just, it's not something that you really want to do, or something that you think is the right thing to do, or you may have a way that you feel it could be done better, but of course you would always want to do whatever, in the Duquesne Club situation, do whatever the member wants and happily say yes and make it work.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my next question is for Tom. So what is the cultural environment for Visit Pittsburgh? How do you interact with other businesses in the city, and how do you promote Pittsburgh?
Well, that's a good question. It's probably the best working environment I've ever been at. The first day I joined Visit Pittsburgh, I walked in and I met the receptionist. He actually was our CEO, Craig Davis. So he sort of wants the whole staff to have this, we're a team environment, everybody, and he cleans the kitchen and he does everything everybody else does. So internally, that's our culture, is that we're a team environment. And also we carry that outside too. Our job is not only to promote Pittsburgh and the city and Allegheny County, but we are also promoting all of our attractions. And Pittsburgh, I'm not sure if you're reading about Pittsburgh lately, but Pittsburgh is a red hot brand right now. So if you took any marketing courses, a hot brand is something you want to be attached to. Anything that has the name Pittsburgh on it right now is hot. We're the #1 food city in the United States now, one of the top places to visit. So what we're trying to do with our partners, which are museums, the theater district, the Kennywoods, anything you can imagine, restaurants, hotels, we try to help them with their publicity too, to promote themselves and to ensure that visitors who are coming to Pittsburgh are also patronizing all of our partners, including the Duquesne Club and the Fairmont Pittsburgh. And I don't know if you see Edie up here. Edie is the dog at the Fairmont Hotel. She's a superstar in Pittsburgh, trust me. Everybody who comes to Pittsburgh wants to visit Edie. So if you're ever in the lobby down there, you can go take her for a walk. Isn't that right, Mark? Yeah. But that's how our policy is, that the whole hospitality environment in Pittsburgh is a team effort to bring in customers, keep them, and encourage them to come back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my next question would be for Ed. So as a professor that deals in entertainment, and as hospitality and tourism can be such a broad field, what type of professions come out of working in that area and the classes that you teach?
Well, you know, we're big on event management. We all teach event management there, and even though the program is sports, arts, and entertainment, you know, you can't major in any one of them. You major in all of it, because we have many of our students that are working at Heinz Field up in the East and West clubs, PNC Park, you know, those kinds of things. I think that sometimes we have difficulty explaining to students that that is where you can, you know, finally get to, is in that kind of industry, because we're all putting on events. I might be talking about music, but it's just like what they were talking about here. You know, when I'm talking to my students, I'm talking about taking care of the artist, just like they were talking about, because that's our client. So if somebody wants to work in the concert business and they work with Live Nation or AEG or out of First Niagara, it's really not that much different than somebody working down at PNC Park in one of the luxury suites, you know. So there's such a similarity that it's exciting, because while there is differences, we blend them all together, if that makes sense. You know, it's very similar.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as we are all students, and one of the things that concerns a lot of students is getting the experience in order to interview and get a job. So a lot of jobs, they want experience, but then how do you get that experience in the first place? And so if each of you would like to comment on what you recommend a student should do in order to interview well if they don't have a lot of experience. Mark, would you like to start?
Show passion. That's really the most important thing. When I interview people, I'm interviewing for the concierge desk. The job of concierge is multifaceted, to say the least. We do just about everything. So I'm not looking for a specific skill. I'm looking for a specific personality. I'm looking for someone who is willing to go the extra mile, who does it naturally, and I think that's very, very important. One of the questions I ask in my interview process is, do you entertain at home? Tell me about it. So I want to hire people who welcome people into their home, cook them dinner. It doesn't have to be formal or fancy, but they have to be social by nature. They need to be, you don't have to be outgoing, but you do have to be engaging. So, you know, the eye contact is absolutely vital. The offering yourself personally is really, I think, the most important thing, especially in the role that I would be hiring for. Excellent. And I think, just on a side note, trying to get into the hospitality field, I personally feel that there's a lot that goes into a lot of importance of just getting your foot in the door. Once you get your foot in the door, you can be promoted very, very quickly from within. People who hold out for that dream job, it's going to be harder. And I think it does take time. But getting your foot in that door, showing that you have passion, proving to your employer that you want to grow, that you have the traits needed to grow, is very, very important.
I think it's important that when you go to an interview, first of all, you look the part and you dress professional. When we're hiring for positions such as servers or food runners, oftentimes those may not be management positions, but they're still important positions, and you want to represent yourself well when you come for an interview. I think it's also okay to be honest that you don't have experience. A lot of times we know that you don't have experience, and I find at times, depending on what the position that we're hiring for is, if you kind of make up something that you might have done, it may not take you as far as it would if you were just honest and said, I don't have experience, but this is where I've studied and what I've learned and what I've liked to do, and this is what I want to do to get there. You know, I am willing to work hard, I'm dependable. I think those things go a long way also. I think follow-up is huge. I think oftentimes there's not a lot of follow-up. I like to tell people the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And it's really true, especially for interviewing. If you're interviewing for something such as maybe a server position at the club, things happen. People get busy. We might have interviewed you, we might have taken your resume, we might have really liked you, but things might have come up and we might not have contacted you right away. It doesn't hurt to pick up the phone and call and say, I talked to you last week, I'm very interested, I wanted to see if you made a decision. That puts your name back out there. So if you follow through, it doesn't hurt to follow up with a letter or a little note saying, thank you so much for speaking to me, I'm interested in whatever the position might be. I think those things go a long way. I also agree that if you're trying to get into the hospitality industry, whether you want to work in a hotel, whether you want to work in a private club, any time is a good time to start working. I mean, it's very easy for the most part to get some type of a job in a hotel, even if it's a server or working at the front desk or some sort of entry-level position. And as Mark said, you can work your way very quickly if you want to be dedicated and if you want to devote yourself to moving up. I started as a server and a coat check person in a hotel, and a bartender, really, and moved very quickly because when there was a spot available because somebody called off wherever, I was willing to take the work and to do whatever I needed to do, and I found that very quickly I gained experience in a lot of different departments, and that helps you to move up very fast. So you have to start somewhere, and as he said, it may not be the dream job that you wanted at a hotel, but even if you work on the weekends or one day a week doing something in the hospitality industry, that may not be directly related to the job that you're trying to get, but that will be experience in the hospitality field, so you may find that that may be very beneficial to you when the dream job does come your way and you're looking to go for it.
Great. First, let me compliment you. I have 3 children who are in their 20s, and they never listen to me, so I can already tell you're at least pretending to listen to us. But actually, this is a great opportunity for you, so I hope you're taking notes, or at least mental notes. But before you even go on an interview, brush up on your notes from your public speaking class. I know people hate public speaking, but a lot of the things that you learn there, hey, if you can get up and talk in front of a group, it'll help you talk one-on-one when someone's interviewing. Also, brush up on your English skills. My oldest son used to send me his reports from school and say, Dad, can you tweak this a little bit? It would be 6 pages long in 3 paragraphs. So there was a lot of tweaking that had to be done before he could hand that in. Seriously, you're a generation that's doing a lot of texting and really brief communications. So when you have to write a memo or write a cover letter, you have a little bit of trouble. So let someone else read that even before you send it. Don't rely on spell check because some words could be spelled correctly, but they're the wrong words. So we eliminated a lot of people even before we give them a call because of their resume. Also, if you show up at what I like to see, besides the passion and what everybody else talks to, that you're prepared for your interview. So my first question to a lot of candidates, and I don't know if Megan's one of our stars from Visit Pittsburgh. If you don't know her, she really did a great job last summer. But if you're not prepared, one of the first questions I ask is, have you looked at our website? 90% of the people will not looked at our website. So really, that shows me a lot about whether you want to work for us or not. It's easy. Just look on it, you know, you should be looking anyway, just to find out information. I really like passion. Passion can make up for a lot of bad grades. That's one thing I just want to get across to you. If you screwed up one of your classes, don't worry about it. I mean, life goes on. I was in engineering until I ran into calculus. I took it and I got a D. At Pitt back then, you could take it over and get the average of the grade, so I took it over and flunked it. So I soon became an English major. But actually, I love passion. I like personalities. I like people come up and say, I want to work for you someday. I don't care what your grades are, seriously, at that point. Just so you graduate, your teachers are probably like shaking their heads right now. But really, what we're talking about, is, especially in hospitality, is personality and passion and commitment. That's what we're looking for.
Well, I would agree with that. It's exactly. I think they've all said it, but I guess just use my own example. We also really push volunteering a lot. You know, I mean, you have to graduate with 3 interns at our place, and you got to volunteer because those are the people that are going to give you some work. But if I look back at what I did, passion is what they were saying. When I left here, I took another job that I didn't want to take, but I didn't know how I was going to get in the music business because I was really just nobody. I had no contacts. I had nothing. And anyways, this company that I talked about, the Caesar Angler, Rich Angler, he ran an ad in the paper for what we call a runner. I didn't even know what it was back in the 70s. Long story short, we were talking. He told me he had fired a lot of people in the last couple of months because they didn't take the entertainment business serious. Hospitality, it's all the same. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, they come in, they're taking pictures with the artists when I'm not looking. They're trying to talk to the bands. I told him I'd never do that. And he said, why? I said, well, I produce some shows when I think getting involved is very important. I don't know where you guys are in terms of your involvement. I wasn't when I first came out here, but I finally quickly realized by getting involved in student activities and doing these things, it changed my whole life. So I said, well, I produce these shows. He goes, okay, call me back tomorrow. Called him back the next day. He said, I'm not hiring anybody. And I told him, I can't be. He goes, what do you mean I can't be? I said, that's not possible. I said, I'm just too close. So we always laugh because I'm very good friends with him to this day. And he says, what did I say next? I said, I talked. I said, I'll work for free. He said, what time can you come to my office tomorrow? That was it. And then I won't even want to go into a long story, but my very first day to work, he said to me, have you ever driven a Rolls Royce? I says, I haven't even seen many Rolls Royces. He goes, well, you're going to pick up a band that you wouldn't know at the airport and drive them to the venue. I thought, wow. So I was a limo driver for the first 3 shows. And from there, I migrated and stayed, like I say, 35 years, but it was all about the passion, just what these guys are saying. I was not going to take no somehow, and I had no experience. So we are all saying the same thing, but I think that's critical. You got to get involved. You still have time to do that here. You'll learn your little trade, and then you'll start to volunteer. You'll take everything you can, because once you get in the club, as we say, then you have a better shot. If you're on the outside looking in, you know, I put posters up the first year when I was driving. Now we call it a street team, you know, but it was putting posters up. So I did what I had to do. Like I'm sure everyone up here said the same thing.
You know, I think there's one thing I want to add, and of your generation, this is really important, but your social media says a lot about you. Even if you're applying for an entry-level position somewhere, employers do look at your Facebook page. There are a lot of, I know at the Duquesne Club, there are a lot of younger people, sometimes who are in roles maybe doing an internship in some of the offices. So people see your social media, and when you have some of the things that you have that may not put you in the best light, you might want to consider that when you really start looking for jobs and applying for things, again, even if it's just an entry-level position somewhere, because there have been people that we have thought looked really great and just sort of taken a glance at Facebook, and it suddenly doesn't look so great anymore, because we feel, of our generation, I think we feel that you all are presenting yourself to your true form on your social media. So we see that, and I think it's very natural for you all, and I would assume that most of the time you're probably interviewing with people of our age group, and so I think it's really important that you brush up your social media and make sure that you're presenting yourself the way that you would want an employer to see you on that.
Thank you. All right, so my next question is actually going to be geared towards both you and Mark regarding the fact that you work in the luxury industry, and that's a smaller segment of Pittsburgh. Is there a way that younger people, such as recent graduates, can get involved in that industry relatively quickly, or do you recommend them having years of experience because it does require more detail, more thought?
I think that you could really get involved at this level. As I said, speaking for the Duquesne Club, there are positions that we hire for, and a lot of times we're specifically targeting college students, especially from the campuses downtown, Duquesne, Point Park, Pitt, just because those are in close proximity to us. But there are entry-level positions such as servers, runners, bartenders, co-check attendants. There's a lot of different things that you could do. Again, even if you don't have a lot of experience as a server, as we discussed earlier, we're looking for bright faces who present themselves well. Anybody can be taught to carry a tray and to serve a table, but it goes back to that passion again and wanting to get into an organization and do really well. So I wouldn't discourage anybody from picking up a job, even if it's at a restaurant. It's just something that will add to that experience, and it's something that a lot of places are hiring pretty much all the time. So from a Duquesne Club standpoint, there are a lot of positions that anybody could apply for, even at this level in your lives.
Thank you.
I would say, to answer your question, jump right in. You do not need to be, come from a wealthy background to enjoy the pleasures of life. I've had many people come and work directly for me who don't have a lot of luxury experience. You don't need to know the difference between Osetra and Beluga caviar, but you do have to have the passion to find out about it. So all of that stuff can be taught. No one, especially at an entry-level position, or maybe even someone in their 20s, is not really expected to know all of the details that go along with luxury service, but they do have need to have the passion to, once they're into it, to learn about it. I had a gentleman that worked for me a few years back who was as green as you can be. Born and bred in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, just had a great passion. He did go to, he got a degree in hospitality, and he just wanted to get his foot in the door. And he called me just as he was about to graduate, and he's like, Mark, what do I do? I worked with him at the front desk at the William Penn many years ago. And I said, well, get your foot in the door. He's like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, well, I'm hiring. Do you want a job? Got him a job. He was so nervous, so scared, didn't know anything about it. And I said, just learn. And in our business, it's okay to say, I don't know, but let me find out. So you don't have to come with a full arsenal of knowledge of everything that is luxury, but you do have to come with a passion to want to find out about it. You can't. Also had someone who was at our desk when we first opened, not hired by me. When interviewed, they asked her what her favorite food was, and she said potatoes. And she meant it. She didn't last very long. She had no passion to identify with the guest that we were serving. She didn't understand why people would pay a premium price when they could really just, stay at a Motel 6. It just didn't jibe. So if you have that passion to learn, if you have that passion, if you just have that want, that desire to know about it, you don't have to live it, but you do need to know about it. And that's, I think, my answer.
At this time, I'd like to open it up to the floor if anybody has any questions.
Well, in my experiences, I've heard a lot about the interconnectedness between a lot of professionals within the hospitality industry. So I don't know if any of you guys can speak to it, or if Tom, within your role at Visit Pittsburgh, just kind of how people in different companies or positions kind of talk or move around.
Well, it's a small city, that's for sure. And especially in hospitality, when you're working in hotels or you're working in clubs, you tend to know the names and know the positions, and we do tend to change positions, and maybe you might have worked at this venue and 2 years from now you work at this venue, but it's the same hospitality professionals downtown. We may move locations, but it's basically the same people. And I think it's important to have relationships, especially with, I know we work with Visit Pittsburgh often. It's good to have those contacts. It's good to remember the people that you worked at the last venue with, because there will probably be an opportunity when you'll need to speak with them again. Or it also helps because you can at times add insight to a member or a guest who's asking something that might pertain to where you worked previously. So I think there is a lot of interconnectedness because everybody pretty much knows everybody. Pittsburghers don't really move, right? I would say we don't really go too far for the most part, most of us.
That's a good question, Megan, because even after all my years of experience, when I was interviewing for Visit Pittsburgh, what did I tell you the first thing you should do? I went on the website, and I got to the board of directors, and I was so happy when I went to that page because 4 of my former colleagues from Interstate Hotels were on the board of directors. So what I do, I put that in my cover letter. If you need a reference, I get a call the next day. So it does help. One thing you should know about the hotel industry, every hotel has an organization like a small company. You don't have to be at the front desk. You don't have to be in restaurants. You can be in accounting or HR or sales. Every position you can find in a company, you probably can find in a hotel. So even if your passion is not to work a front desk or you want to be in sales and marketing or something like that, if I were doing it over again, I would go into the hotel industry because so many of my friends grew up in the hotel industry and they traveled. They have so many perks you can't believe. You get some real good discounts, but they've been to some amazing places. Like we're in the winter in Pittsburgh, they went south to some of the hotels in Key West or Florida. I'm sure the hotel people can tell you that. So it's a good opportunity to move around. Even if you don't want to leave Pittsburgh, you want to stay in the hotel industry, there's things called task force. When a company opens up another hotel, they'll send you down there to work for a month or 2, so you get that experience. So, but to get back to your question, there is a lot of talking going on between the attractions and Visit Pittsburgh and the hotels. So if I'm interviewing today and I need some experience and someone has hotel experience, they'll definitely go to the top of the heap of resumes. So always don't burn bridges. I'm sure you've heard that. Don't do that because Pittsburgh is a very small world. So
well, that's the other part of it too, is that you may have held a position at a hotel and you might be applying for a position at another hotel, and you could probably be pretty certain that whoever you're interviewing with when you leave is going to pick up the phone and call that hotel and say, hey, I just had so-and-so here. What can you tell me about them? You know, of course, nobody's really supposed to say bad things, but you can kind of get the jive of what somebody is really trying to say about that person. So that's, I think, a key point for it as well.
Yeah, I would again echo all of that. I mean, I know we push a lot of our students into Aramark because Aramark's big for our industry. You know, we work a lot with Heinz Field, Stage AE, you know, PNC Park, Consol, and I have a lot of students that sometimes they get a little frustrated, but you know, because they're not sure exactly what they're going to do in it. But there's a lot of great management positions in there. One thing can lead to another. I'm dealing with a girl right now that's a director down at Stage AE. You know, she came from the hotel industry, but now she's working in the music part of it, but she's still doing the same thing. She never even knew that she would do that. She said, you know, she didn't think she would have been a good candidate for it, but it's amazing how it's worked out for her. And she's in the hospitality industry, putting on events and creating all the non-concert activity. And she came from a hotel. And so it's, you never know where you're going to end up, I guess, is the point, right? All one thing leads to another, maybe.
There's certainly an interconnectedness with the people in a city the size of Pittsburgh and even larger markets. The organization that I belong to is called Lake Clay Door. It's an international concierge association. And even when you go worldwide, your reputation does go with you. Every time someone applies to Lake Clay Door, every member gets an email saying, do you know anything about this person? And that's a lot of people all over the world. So what they said about burning bridges, that's just true in life. But never underestimate the opportunity to have a good relationship with your foot in the door position, because your next position, the person you stepped on, could in fact be your boss or an important ally. So there are, like you mentioned Craig Davis. I've worked with Craig Davis for years and years and years and years. I see him every morning when he comes into our hotel. He was, I think, director of sales at the William Penn when I was there. There's just, every hotel has 5 people that I've worked with at another hotel. It is a small market, but it's a very tight family too. And so it's a sword that cuts both ways, as they say.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, because the hospitality industry is so vast and there's so many aspects to it and there's so many small subsidiaries, you said you kept talking about how there's so many positions that you keep switching between to gain experience, but when do you, for your individual selves, did you feel that this was your stopping point, this was going to actually build a career instead of keep trying to achieve more experience?
I'll tell you when I get there. But seriously, I think I got the dream job now, and I'll probably retire there, but you always want to be challenging yourself. If you get into a job, even your dream job, after 5 years, if you don't feel challenged, I mean, some people will stay. My dad, when I switched my first job, he was so disappointed because he was with his company for 47 years. That doesn't happen anymore, especially your age group. You're probably going to be 15 jobs before you retire. So the answer to that question is, I don't know if this is my final job. I always want to be challenged, and I think that's what you have to always be looking for. Sometimes families and you want to stay in Pittsburgh, that sort of limits your opportunities. But my advice is don't, always be trying to find a job that challenges you.
I find that a lot in the hotel industry. You'll find someone who maybe works 5 years in human resources, they get bored with it. You can stay in the same company and get a completely different career path. That is, go from human resources to housekeeping, to sales and marketing, to accounting, to guest service. And there are a lot of people in our industry that have worked in all of those departments, which all seem completely unrelated, and they are in a way, but they all fall under the umbrella of hospitality. It's a great industry to be in because you can really have many, many micro careers, if that, is that a new word? I don't know. And a lot of people and that I work with have worked in so many different departments for a long time. And they really are just small careers, and it's a great industry to be in, to be able to do that. You won't find that really in many, I don't think you'll find that in many other professions, including Canine Ambassador.
I think that the beauty of being in the hospitality industry is there aren't, as he said, many positions that you can take where you can explore pretty much a different job within a job. My advice to you would be go with the flow. Be willing to do anything. I started off in room sales. I was a food and beverage director. I was assistant general manager for a hotel. I was director of operations. I was also director of catering for a hotel, as well as a catering sales manager. For me, at some point, it just seemed like catering seemed so natural to me, and even though there were different positions that I was qualified for and I could do, I really enjoyed the catering, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do catering at the best place really in the city for catering, at the Duquesne Club, in my opinion anyway, sorry. But I think it's nice when you work in hotels because there's always a hotel. I mean, if you think of how many hotels are in this area right here, once you get experience in one hotel, you could pretty much go your entire life and work in the hotel segment and really not be without a job, because if you're working at this hotel as a salesperson and then you jump to another hotel and you work in food and beverage, or in another hotel you can go into accounting. So you can really get experience in a vast amount of different positions all within one building, and that will give you the tools that you need to really keep yourself employed throughout your career. And it's nice because if you sometime in the future, if you have a family or have a significant other and you move away, you know that if you're in the hospitality industry, there's always going to be a place where you can get a job. So if you pick up today from Pittsburgh and move to California, there are going to be hotels there, there are going to be clubs there. If you have some experience in hospitality, you'll always be able to go to one of those and really get a job. I wouldn't turn away any work in a hotel, even housekeeping. There was a small stint where I did some work in housekeeping, and it's, you know, there's a director of housekeeping in every hotel. It may not be the person that's actually cleaning the rooms, but it's the person that's facilitating the operation of that housekeeping department. So there's a lot of positions that you could really find your way into and discover that, hey, this is what I really like, and you can move from place to place with still really doing what you like at each venue.
All right, thank you. So before Megan closes the panel, oh,
Here's my question, guys. Obviously, your jobs can't be outsourced to overseas, but we've all been impacted. Even your industries have been impacted by the change, technology, particularly yours. And can you guys comment about what has happened, but also how do you stay cutting edge? How do you try to get yourself in tune with what might be happening in the future to skate to where the puck is going in businesses?
I mean, you know, again, I think our businesses cross over so much. Again, even though I teach sports, arts, and entertainment, it crosses over. But it's just being on top of, I guess, your game. I mean, what's one of the things we're trying to teach our students actually in our program so that they are on board with those kinds of things. But I think also, you know, again, being out there and knowing who the companies are and what those technology impacts are, and being involved and learning and just staying in touch with things. In any business, you're just going to be better off. I think you're right. Things have changed so much. I know in our own business, my God, in entertainment, and I could sit here for hours and we could talk about that. Everybody could have an opinion on that, from the way we get our music to the way we listen to our music. Some people in this room might remember albums. Some people don't. Anybody know albums? How do we spell that word? Anybody know how to spell albums? I had one time a kid said to me, how do you know where to put that little needle? Well, you bring it over here. Should have a class on that sometime. Yeah. But anyways, I'm learning a lot actually from the students sometimes. That's kind of an interesting way because they know so much about new things. But anyways, I think it relevates to all of it. So I'll just put it out in the music business.
Yeah. My first dream job, I think I mentioned, was at Interstate Hotels, and we went through 3 mergers, an acquisition, a spinoff, and then everybody in Pittsburgh lost their jobs, so we were out on the street. So one of the things I picked up was more social media skills. I actually picked it up from 3 teenagers who were my children. I thought I was an idiot on social media, but I knew I needed that skill if I was going to continue on in PR and communications. So you're never too old. That's a good question, because you're never too old to learn new skills. So you have to be constantly adjusting, adapting. I have a question of all you. Does anybody have their 30-second elevator speech ready? Well, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but that's something you should work on. If you ever get in the elevator with me and you want, that's where it comes from. If you only have an opportunity to talk to somebody from the ground floor up to their office, you want to sell yourself to that person. So you want to have a 30-second speech, and that will help you in interviews, everything else like that. So if you came up to me after this meeting and you wanted to impress me, you should have something that 30 seconds about what you've accomplished, why you're skilled, and why you want the job. But practice that, especially before you go on interviews, because you're going to have a lot of 30-second elevator speeches in your career. So if you haven't learned that yet, start thinking about that.
I think that the economy directly relates to our industry, because a lot of times people are spending money on something that may not be a necessity. However, I think that even when times get bad and money gets tight for people, I think there's always a small portion of a budget that is put aside for something special. And I think it's important when you work in the hospitality industry to make sure that every experience for the guest or the member or whomever it may be is a special experience, because they may be coming to you for a party, they may be coming to a restaurant where you work for a dinner, and they may be using that small reserve of their budget that they've put aside for a special event. And when they're spending it with you, you want to make sure that you're on top of your game and it's the best experience that they can have, because that will bring them back. So even if times are tight, things like weddings, even when the economy isn't great, people are still getting married and they're still looking for places to have a wedding. And in my business, that's important, because obviously I want them to come to the Duquesne Club. So I think you have to make experiences, especially in tough economic times, even better, so that when they think about the money that they did spend on an event that may have been a splurge, they think, wow, it was really worth it though. And maybe the next time they have an event, they're coming back to you again because they know that you won't let them down.
Your question was on technology? Okay. Yeah, there's always talk of the getting rid of the front desk in a hotel. You know, we lower the desk. We are of that generation, Fairmont, Pittsburgh. Our desk is very, very low. Then they're talking about moving to pods, where you come out from behind, like you can have your little computer screen and then step out, get a direct physical interaction, checking a bag, shaking a hand, something like that. Also talking about getting rid of pods already before we even get them. Going to the iPad check-in, where you're greeted at the door by pretty much any hotel employee that works in what we call front office. So guest services, bellman doorman, valet, concierge, front desk. Anyone who meets you would have the ability to very quickly swipe a credit card, confirm a credit card, whatever it is, whisk you away to your room. There's, you know, online apps that you can now, your phone can actually be a key to your room. A lot of technology is coming. We've tried a lot of them. Some of them fail, you know, when you first try them. But in our industry, you really do have to keep up with it and give everything a try. It is challenging, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, there's a little roll of the eye, like, oh, you know, how easier can we make this? The thing about our industry is that you'll never, ever 100% get rid of the personal interaction, no matter how automated it becomes. There's a hotel in New York where there's a machine that checks your bag. No human being touches it, where you go in and you check in and you don't interact with anybody. That's a fad. Some of that will rub off and stay. The automated nature of it, people love, but you're never going to give up that human contact, and I think that's why we're all here.
All right. Thank you, all of you. Megan, if you'd like to come up here and close everything.
So I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you guys for all attending this session. And again, thank you to Professor McPhail for helping us get our panelists here. they'll be available for a few minutes after the session, so feel free to come up and speak to them. And I just want to put a little plug in for the club breakfast tomorrow at 7:45 to 9. I know it's early, but we will be kind of doing a little HATMA plug for the hospitality club and club managers, which is another club within the major. So I just invite you guys all to attend that. So thank you guys for coming. Thanks.
First time they went.